On today's episode, I want to run through some changes I think the Broncos should make during their bye week, which is finally here at the very end of the season. The NFL always tries to nickel and dime Sean Payton, but this time worked out in Denver's advantage because they get a much needed bye going into the final 4 weeks of the year. But my first change is I would like to volunteer my knee to Riley Moss because what we saw on Monday night was a very scary sight if we do not see Moss return to the starting lineup soon. Levi Wallace filling in, it was simply point blank not going to cut it. I mean, this is just one game. Targeted 11 times. I mean, the Browns quickly figured out if we throw to 39's half of the field, good things will happen. And by the way, those numbers could be exponentially worse if Jameis Winston does not miss a wide open Jerry Jeudy prior to the 70-yard touchdown pass he threw to him. It could realistically be well over 200 yards allowed in coverage and 2 touchdowns. So some type of change is needed. I'm not overreacting when I say the performance we saw in Week 13 was so bad that just trotting it out all over again, if Riley Moss is not healthy coming out of the bye, is point blank a horrible idea. Whether it's a change in personnel, maybe you decide, nope, we're not going to start Levi Wallace. We're going to go back to Damari Mathis, although that didn't work out very well last year. Or you want to try the rookie Chris Abrams-Drain, who's hardly seen the field this season. You got to change something up. Or you could change the scheme up, right? Maybe you save Levi Wallace for the red zone where his speed or lack of can't be exploited because there's a third defender, the back end zone. Or you put Chris Abrams-Drain over the middle of the field. You got to change something because that simply cannot just be repeated, and cross our fingers, hopefully it goes better. The Colts, who are going to be the team that Denver faces coming out of their bye, have a sneaky good receiving core. Like, I know these numbers don't pop out to you, but I think this is mostly due to a couple of injuries and also just inconsistent quarterback play. But Pierce, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, they are all talented wide receivers. They are all fully capable of maximizing a poor matchup given to them by the defense and taking advantage of it. This is not a receiving core where you can kind of play with fire and get away with it. Like, remember on Thursday night when Pat Surtain missed the Saints game because of the concussion? You kind of got away with it because the Saints were missing Chris Olave. They were missing Rashid Shaheed. Like, they were missing some of their top players. The Colts are not a team you can do that with. Now, I think I have some good-ish news. Jeremy Fowler yesterday for ESPN shared this on Riley Moss. I was told he'll likely miss, quote, a couple of weeks because of the right knee injury. Perhaps he can rehab in time for a post-bye return against the Colts in Week 15. So Moss, who left Week 12 against the Raiders early, missed Week 13 against the Browns. Hopefully, he only misses 2 weeks, and he is back for that Colts matchup because he has had an excellent season. I mean, you got to think about all the balls that are thrown his direction because no one wants to mess with PS2. And despite that, he is just ready for it every single week, and he chomps at the bit. And I think he's had an outstanding season in his first year as an NFL starter. So there needs to be some type of change made. If I can't get a knee transplant for Riley Moss done by Sunday or next Sunday, then you just cannot trot out Levi Wallace and hoping for different results. Before we get on to the next change I would like to see the Broncos make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're looking for a couple of reasons, here's a few. One, we'll always give you the latest news and rumors. When Josh Reynolds was released, we got back in the studio. We were the first ones to get a video out on the news. We're going to get you free content as well. You never have to pay a dime when you click that subscribe button down below. And we're one of the largest Broncos YouTube communities out there, closing in on 30,000 subscribers strong. Second change for Sean Payton, who I hope is writing this down. More Jaleel McLaughlin carries. I think I speak for everyone when I say, unfortunately, the Javonte Williams dream is over. And I'm, for one, surprised by the poor play he's had this year. I really thought contract year, 2 years removed from a knee injury, we'd see the talent that you get out of a second-round pick. Ultimately, that has not happened. Look at the numbers over the last 4 games. Javonte Williams is averaging less than 3 yards a carry. He's also third in carries of the trio. Jaleel McLaughlin is leading the bunch with 159 yards and averaging nearly 6 yards a carry, which is almost twice as good as Audric Estime, the rookie, which leads me to this. Those two guys, McLaughlin and Estime, should be your two backs moving forward. I just cannot come up with a reason to find a spot for Williams on the field. It's not the goal line, right? It's not like he has this awesome ability to find his way into the end zone. He's got 2 touchdowns this year that came in the same game. So no, I simply see no reason to put Javonte Williams on the field with the numbers he's put up over the last month compared to highlight reel Jaleel and Audric Estime. So it's already trending this way, but let's, unfortunately for Williams, really hammer it home. It's McLaughlin and Estime's backfield for the rest of the season. Plus, Denver's run game this year, it looks passable because of what Bo Nix is able to do. With Nix, this team averages a little over 110 yards per game on the ground. If you remove Bo Nix's running abilities, this team without him averages under 90 yards per game. So, you've got a running back committee that's producing diddly squat. I mean, under 90 yards per game, this would be bottom 5 in the NFL. With Bo Nix, it kind of looks manageable. But you should not be asking your quarterback, who's not even a run-first quarterback. He's no Lamar or Jalen Hurts or anything like that. He's just got good athletic ability, and he's got good speed to extend plays. But you're hardly calling design quarterback runs for him to be the main carrier of this team's ground game. Before we look at the final change in the bye, I do want to give a shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash all season long on Prize Picks. So let me give you an example of what some selections look like. For tonight, I'm taking the more on Jahmyr Gibbs and his rushing yards. I also like the less on Christian Watson's receiving yards. So if you like these selections, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. This next change is not one that I feel as passionate about as I do for the first two, but I'd like to maybe see a little bit more downfield passing to a certain speedy wide receiver who was a teammate of Bo Nix at Oregon, and that's Troy Franklin, because he got off to a bit of a slow start, and that's expected, a 4th-round pick. They're not going to put a ton on his plate in the first few weeks of the season, but I think we can all agree that we continue to see the ball find 16's hands more and more as the season has gone along, and I think we're in a good spot now where you can go, hey, let's start pushing the ball a little bit down the field, especially to these 2 speedsters. Marvin Mims, who capped off the Monday night win with a 93-yard touchdown reception, and then Troy Franklin, who has seen a consistent role in this offense, especially the last 3 weeks, going 27 snaps, 27 snaps, 27 snaps. And then what we're seeing out of Bo Nix this year, on top of all of that, I'm not comparing these numbers to show one is better than the other. That's not the goal of this. But in a similar sample size of games, look at the pass attempts Bo Nix has had in 2024, his first year in the NFL, of 20-plus yards down the field. This is just down the field, not like he threw a screen and the guy ran 20 yards. Compared to his last year at Oregon, 62 to 44. And it's a lot easier to pass the ball down the field in college. So I'm not bringing up these numbers to go, hey, look, Bo Nix was better at a downfield passer in his last year at Oregon than his first year in the NFL. Yeah, of course, that's going to be true for every quarterback because it's so much easier in college to throw the ball down the field against those DBs than in the NFL. But the number that really jumps out to me is the attempts and the attempt percentage. 3 points isn't a groundbreaking difference, but in a similar sample size of the number of games and passes and whatnot, we are seeing this NFL coaching staff trust Nix more than Dan Lanning did to throw the ball down the field. Plus, it worked for Dan Lanning, so I'm not knocking him for not shaking up his play style and his game plan because of what's best for Bo Nix's draft profile. But the overarching point here is you are seeing Bo Nix show that, hey, even at college, even though at college I wasn't asked to do this, which was something that definitely, I guess fooled me into thinking, hey, Nix might not have that ability to his game. But in the NFL, he is showing us he is not afraid to grip it and rip it. Example, Marvin Mims, 93-yard touchdown, standing in the pocket as pressure comes down his face, and he delivers a absolute frozen rope over the middle of the field in between a couple of defenders. So after watching that throw, I come away from that going, hey, I know another speedster who has shown he can really bring in some big plays, Troy Franklin. So let's see that connection build, and let's see some more explosive plays in the passing game, because you're not getting it from the ground game. Before we get on out of here, I just want everyone watching right now to shout out their city in the chat. We've seen a lot of growth over the channel over the last couple of months, really this entire season. So it's always awesome to see how far and wide a fan base stretches. So if you are still watching, scroll on down and shout out your city for me in the chat. That will do it for us on today's episode. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like the video. That really does go a long way to boost the channel, and hit that subscribe button as well.